Go Spurs, go! This is your virtual big brother, Ray Collazo, and you're listening to Ray's Talk Show. This show is for super talented and service-oriented people, no selfish people here, to help them find wealth in their voice through career, personal development, and career growth. And we love to share tips of everything from brand development to online platform building. And again, we help super talented people just want to do the right thing and take care of their families and find a online business or just a career path that really lets them escape that cage that they feel trapped in because they have so many ideas, so much vision, so much to share, and they just need a platform to share with a few more people. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a very special guest, a return guest. She knows us just from the Race podcast days, blogger, speaker, and just a great member of the Latino online community, Melanie Mendez-Gonzales of the ¿Qué Means What platform. Melanie, welcome back to Race Talk Show.
Hi, Ray. Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
No, we're excited to have you. And again, we're simulcasting on Mevi. We got a lot going on here. So, for those not familiar with Melanie, Melanie Mendez-Gonzales is an online media entrepreneur and the creator of the ¿Qué Means What online platform brand. She's one of the leading Latina lifestyle bloggers chronicling the entertainment and education from a Latino perspective, as well as a great storyteller chronicling her life as a Tejana wife and mother of boys, something you share in common with my wife, Melanie, chasing those boys around. Melanie, again, thank you so much for joining Ray's Talk Show again. Great to have you back.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here. We always have great conversations, Ray, so let's do it.
And of course, we sort of insinuated it in the intro, but she's also not only a Tejana, but a proud resident of San Antonio and Spurs Nation. So
That's
always
right.
my homie from our Latino Sports Talk brand, Angel Hernandez Rivera, sort of the king of Spurs Nation here, but you're certainly royalty here, one of the reinas for Spurs Nation and our crew. So maybe we'll talk a little hoops later. You guys certainly are lined up for another excellent season. And again, Melanie has a lot of talent, and we're going to get into learning more about Melanie. And really one of the reasons I wanted to have Melanie on the show is that I know so many writers, many of which are joining us here on Blab, which I'm really appreciating, and I'm hoping they're not shy. They jump in. I'd love for them to jump in and be part of the whole conversation. And I have so many writers and so many creative people. And oftentimes, writers, because, sometimes they're kind of introverted and get into they're so focused on their creativity that they struggle with sort of figuring out how to monetize and sort of expand from their writing to build their online platform and online business and grow in their careers. And so Melanie's going to share some tips. She's been doing it on the grind for quite some time, and it's changing ever much. So the last time we spoke, probably about a year ago, Melanie, you probably figured out some other hustles and angles that you can share. And Melanie just has a lot going on, and as someone that really is someone that really brings a lot of very socially conscious content creators together online, and wanted to share her background there and her experiences and what she sees on the horizon for people that want to really service people through these online platforms. So Melanie, but let's start from the beginning. And again, got a lot of great writers and folks, and we'd love for others to join this conversation here on Blab, and always appreciate our Blab community. Again, we're on every Tuesday and Thursday night, 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 p.m. Central, as well as the podcast version of the show if you're listening to Race Podcast. Race Podcast ain't going nowhere. This is just another way of sharing. We always appreciate our podcast listeners from our beginnings. So Melanie, again, you're very well respected and celebrated in the online space as a blogger and a Latina social media influencer. But Melanie Mendez-Gonzales, where did the ¿Qué Means What journey begin for you?
Well, the actual writing piece of it began when I was, I guess, in career change. Didn't know what I was going to do, and I was getting out of direct sales because I knew that was the end of my career there, but didn't know my next step. And my business coach said, "You should start a blog." And I didn't really know what a blog was at that point. I didn't read any, and so I just Googled it and got started writing. And what poured out was mostly what I had learned, leadership styles and things like that, due to the direct sales career that I had, and some of my college leadership stuff and management stuff. But what really came around was expressing my lack of cultural identity. Through some of the stories, I was able to pinpoint that was an issue for me. That was something that, I don't think I had really addressed head on because I didn't have a space. I mean, I wasn't letting it out anywhere. And so then I began writing, and that's what came out. It was like, wow, I always refer to it as the Selena dad, the scene from the movie Selena, where her dad goes into how you're not Mexican enough and you're not American enough. And so that's really what came out of it. And the more that I shared, the more people started to let me know that they could connect to that. And that was exciting. That was connecting in a way with people I had not before, because really, Ray, I mean, I was a little bit embarrassed. I was, totally still dealing with the shame of not speaking Spanish, which that's a whole, other issue. But I was dealing with a lot of that, and through the writing, I realized how cathartic it was. So I find it interesting that you refer to writers and you're calling me a writer, because I still feel it a challenge to call myself a writer, even though I write very often. I mean, it's what I do and often get paid for. But that's just not how I started out. I mean, that wasn't the intention. I wasn't like, I want to be a writer. It was, the blog was a platform of self-expression, really, more than anything. And it's grown into what it is today.
Absolutely. There's a couple, and I will, we'll put on the show notes for the podcast for the show, we'll actually put a link to the first appearance of Melanie on Ray's podcast, again, about a year ago. And we had an opportunity to really dive real deep into that cultural identity piece, which is heavy duty. It's very, particularly for Latinos in our generation, when depending where you lived, speaking Spanish was not only discouraged, it was kind of dangerous almost to sort of express your culture. Yeah. And there's a lot of history there, but, and we really dive into it. And I shared sort of some similar observations about my own life and own insecurity. So I definitely think a conversation about our personal identities that people can relate to, and we'll connect it on the show notes. But there's two things you mentioned there, Melanie, I wanted to kind of touch on a little bit more, because the first one is it's a great lesson for content creators, and to some degree even sort of Latino content creators specifically, about keeping it real and being vulnerable and sharing and being authentic, because oftentimes you could have tried to fake it, right? And kind of the pain of sort of presenting yourself as someone that you're not would have been much greater ultimately than just being yourself. And and sort of in realizing that you weren't going to be rejected. It was actually going to be quite the opposite. People would respect your honesty and your authenticity. And we're seeing, even in the political thing, where more and more people are looking for realness, right, in this world. Right. And the other part of it is that on some level, you kind of found a niche from a marketing perspective. People that are searching for this balance, this sort of this evolving identity well into their adult years. So what about those my observations resonates as it relates to lessons for content creators about authenticity?
Right. So I always encourage people to start where they are, kind of like you said. It would be much more painful to try to be something else. And I know, because I've done it. I've had my ups and downs in my circles in this journey. And one of them was, once I got so far, I was, really paying attention to the blogosphere, and I saw what other bloggers were doing, and I was trying to keep up. And that led me into a place where I was writing things that I really didn't either know. I didn't know that much about them, or I didn't really want to write about it, but I was doing it because I thought that's what a blogger should be doing. And so we have to, start right where you are and write as you grow. But I'm having a hard time explaining. Like, just write where you are. Like, you're going to grow, so you will always write where you are. And as we keep doing that, then you stay authentic. You're not looking too far ahead. I mean, you can be reflective, of course, but being honest with yourself. And that's scary because most of what we share, we really do think no one else feels this way, or it's just me that, you know, no one else can possibly be, you know, this embarrassed or whatnot. And it's like, it's life's funny secret, you know, like it's a dirty little secret. Like they don't want you to say that. Because once you do, then you're out, right? Like you're totally vulnerable. Like me admitting that I did not speak Spanish was like a coming out party. I mean, it was like, holy moly, I'm actually saying this, putting it out there. And you know, the world didn't end.
And so, that's amazing how it happened.
Yeah.
A lesson all people that feel constricted in a closet of some sort, you know? Yeah, it's true.
Exactly. Everybody has their thing. Yeah, everybody has their thing. For me, that's what it was, you know? And that's it can be scary a little bit. I mean, you know, you will know your limit. You will know, like, okay, this I shouldn't, you know, tell the whole wide world. But maybe this, because other, you know, this is something that I just need to get out sometimes. Sometimes it's like I just need to express it so it can leave me. It can leave the space renting in my head, and so that I can have space to write new, you know, to create new things.
That's right. It could just be therapeutic, or it could be a mechanism to get feedback about that emotion, and also to stoke conversation, and give people the confidence to go there for themselves, right? Because it also is essentially it is an act of leadership, because ultimately there will be people that feel that way, or there'll be some element of it where it'll resonate, right? And it'll give them the confidence to kind of share. So it's very important. What do you think about the market piece in that? You know, do you feel like kind of because you were so candid sort of as you developed your blogging journey that it helped you connect with an audience quicker, or it helped you connect to kind of your sweet spot in sort of your online community?
You know, that's really interesting, right? Because here's my experience. This is what my experience has been with it. When I first started calling myself Latina, in all honesty, I started using it more on the blog because that's what I saw was being marketed to. And so I thought, well, I'm Mexican American. And whenever they're showing ads or things that relate to me, you know, that I feel I feel a connection to, it's for Latinas. So I started using, that was a marketing piece, right? I started using that more and more, Latina, because I don't think I really referred to myself as that before. It was always usually like the Hana, you know, or Mexican American.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So I wanted to grow, so I started using the word Latina. And then what I found was, at the time, most marketers, when they would say Latina, they meant a Spanish-speaking Latina or a first-generation immigrant from a Latin American country. They weren't necessarily meaning fifth-generation Texan, you know? And so that was a struggle. That was really hard. So what I ended up I just kept going with it though, because it seemed to be harder to find to grow an audience when you specifically say Mexican American. And the other part was I learned early on from a great leader, Ana Roca Castro, the founder of Latism. She always stressed, you know, the Latino
community. For LB, got a couple of Dominicans watching. Just want to
exactly. Yes. Well, and that's
we got a notable. You know, I know LB. Thank you. You're welcome.
And that's a perfect segue, because what she taught me was to always find the commonalities in the Latino culture rather than what makes it different. And so that's why I kept going with the term Latina, because that's what I was searching for. There were very similar stories in a Mexican American you know, a Mexican American family as there was as a Dominican American family. And so that's what I was trying to get at, rather than being so specific. However, if I can add on to that.
Sure.
what has come of it now is the sense that I'm really passionate about uplifting the Latino / Hispanic, whatever, Chicano, whatever word you want to use, voices in Texas. Because Tejanos or Texans have a unique voice, especially when they have long history here. Because I know people are tired of hearing it, but it really is like other state in the states. And I mean that more in the sense of our cultural heritage and having been, part of Mexico and then on our own, and then a part of the United States. And there are generations here, today that their families have been here all those generations. And that has an impact on how they see themselves. And in turn, so I'm fourth, fifth generation American, and many of the Latinos today are, immigrants or first generation, but eventually they will also be third, fourth, and fifth generation. So I'm talking more about like the future of our country, and I want to make sure that the voices that are already 3, 4, 5 generations deep, American Latinos, that those stories are still being told. And so that's a lot of those are the type of leaders that I'm looking for to help uplift those voices, because I want to be sure that they're there, that somebody's recording those stories, whether that be blogging, podcasting, whatever it is. I want to be writing. I want to be sure that to do my part to get those stories recorded.
Absolutely. And you talk about whether it's a Mexican family or a Dominican family. And of course, the case of Maria Hinojosa, she's in a Mexican-Dominican relationship. So she's there's a lot of cross. There's even a lot of ways we come together. And the other part of that, which is kind of cute, is that I believe you and I, Melanie, met in 2013 at Latism that was in New York City. And I just remember we talked about it after the fact, and I remember I kind of sensed this when you were there, but not knowing for sure until we talked about it after the fact, you commenting to me like, I had never been around like that whole New York Caribbean Latino vibe, and it was like a little overwhelming. So yeah, we talk a little faster and eat a lot of bananas in our food, and we can dance pretty well, but that's definitely, like you said, more commonality.
That was a fun dance party. That was a lot of fun. I remember that.
Well, I had to go home. I didn't go to the party. I just know in general, my anthropological hat, I know that, we tend to get down a little bit, but anyway, again, you're listening to the leader of the Que Means What blog platform, and one of our great social media influencers, Melanie Mendez-Gonzales from QueMeansWhat.com, and you're watching Ray's talk show here on Blab. Thank you again for the audience. And again, we encourage anyone to join in, where this is definitely going to get into, particularly our writers and bloggers out there, definitely get into some real talk about is what's the deal with blogging and writing from a monetization perspective and positioning your online platform. And again, we really appreciate folks checking us out on Ray's podcast, a version of the show. You can always check out all of our content. Doing a lot of live streaming, by the way, nowadays. So definitely want to let people know anywhere you can live stream pretty much. I'm out there doing some stuff, Me, Periscope. So definitely check out our platform at BigBrotherRay.com for all the content, and you can download the podcast on iTunes. So Melanie, let's get into it. And we have a question for the audience here. So let's touch base on that, and then we'll get into a few things. But let's see here. Let's put it up here on the big board here so people can see it. So one of our dear friends, Elbert Garcia, a fellow writer. I know a number of writers, especially women, can get a lot of pushback when their writing touches a nerve in other people. Any horror stories when folks' comments have crossed the line that they affect your bottom line? So that's a loaded question. Any stories about touching nerves in your writing, Melanie, you'd like to share?
On Que Means What, I will admit, I've played it pretty safe. I haven't, and I've been challenged by people who love me to push the envelope, because I have a lot to say, as many people do, and I have big opinions. So maybe Is it Albert? Albert, maybe
Yeah.
not so much personally, did it affect my bottom line? Like I wrote something and then it was, wasn't received well. But I think on the flip side, there are things that I haven't written or things that I know that I should write. And I think I'm a little bit scared because I'm afraid maybe it will affect the bottom line. There are stances that you can take, and once you make that public, and once, especially, for someone like me, that I control the content on my website, and so it's automatically branded, and that won't always align with some of the brands that either I have worked with in the past or some that I want to work with in the future. That's what makes it really hard, is that, these brands have, boards of directors, and everybody has an opinion or a stance on something. And it's very rare that you agree with everything that they agree with. So you have to balance it. And but I have heard, I do have friends that, yeah, they've written stuff and haven't gotten as much work after they wrote it because of it. But
one of the things
go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. You speak about it from a content perspective, and we're on Periscope now. So I just want to thank the Periscope community for joining this edition of Race Talk Show with Melanie Mendez-Gonzales. But one of the things I'm finding with particularly Latina live streamers that or Latinas that want to take their brand onto live stream platforms like Periscope is that concern, or that the troll issue. With blogging and other things, it's not as sort of in your face. You know what I'm saying? You can delete a comment, right? But when someone's on Periscope, it's sort of in the moment, and it could be something vulgar. It could be you don't know where it's coming from. So so that's a dynamic that I'm definitely seeing, that Latina lifestyle bloggers and that are trying to take, or just women that are trying to take their platform to live streaming, and particularly Periscope, I think is probably the most obvious example of that. Where now the good news is that with the modern, these platforms are more and more becoming easier to filter. So we had a guest on here, Sabrina Sith, that she said she's blocked over 1,000 people already. So Albert Garcia chimed in there. I find that fear to be real, especially more so now than ever with Twitter and Facebook everywhere. And he thanks you for your comments. So Melanie, what do you think about that in terms of any advice for our bloggers out there, our content creators, about if they have trepidation about having to deal or have to be confronted by haters and trolls?
Here's what I'll say is you have to do what's best for you. I've been writing, blogging 5 years, and like I admitted, like there's still things I know I need to write. And now we're talking about live streaming and video. And when I give people advice about starting an online platform, today I'm telling them, jump right into video. Like, don't get left behind. Like, stay ahead of the curve, right? Jump right into the live streaming and video, because that's where you're going to end up anyway. Right? So it's like, don't be like me that's been blogging for 5 years and have transitioned hard, So
Latism needs a Shauna Blab, my friend. We need to talk about that. But anyway,
So it's like I'm making my way in. You know what I mean? Like I'm doing it just a little bit past my comfort level, because if I stayed at my comfort level, I wouldn't be here. So you have to do what's best for you. And there's no recipe. There's no step-by-step, which is a good thing and a bad thing, but there is no step-by-step on how to reach the success that you want online as an online media creator, entrepreneur. So you have to decide what it's going to be and how much you're going to share. As a mom, there are limits that I put on myself as to what I share with my family, because I'm trying to respect my kids' privacy as well. They're going to grow up one day, and I don't want them to see videos of themselves, And so, so you have to just do what's right for you. I know that sounds very like blankety, but that's part of the growth. Like, it's a part of what it is. And it's a part of defining your own voice, because whether that voice is writing or speaking or videos or, however it is, your main voice, once you get that, like once you really get it, you'll know what's the right thing to do. And block those people on Periscope. Like, who cares? Oh, this is what I was going to say is until those people are signing your paychecks, who cares what they're saying?
That's right. Hey, you know what I tell people? I said, look, the people that get hated on the most are the most successful. So that's the bottom line. Right. So, Michael,
Look, I have Lorraine Laddish. She is the creator of Viva50.com. And I consider her a mentor. She's amazing. Absolutely. And she comments on the bad, the troll comments that she gets all the time, because she's talking about aging. Now, mind you, she's beautiful and she's putting it all out there, her whole age and everything. And so there are definitely people who want to make her feel bad about herself because she's doing so well. But you know what she says to them, and I've seen her do it. She just writes a comment, "Thank you so much for your comment," or "Thank you for stopping by," and just lets it roll off her back. And I admire her so much for that. So should I get negative, I hope that is exactly how I treat it.
Renee Starms, thank you so much for joining us, and the rest of our friends here on Race Talk Show. Michael Pomposello chimes in here. Melanie, I've been hesitant to start a blog on my passion outside of what I do for a living, and listening to you, I just registered the domain. So look at that, you're already changing lives, girl. And let me tell you, Michael's doing his thing. So this is a young entrepreneur that has become a part of the Race Talk Show community, and a good guy, and has visited on a few shows. So hopefully he'll join us at some point. Kim and Renee, we're talking about blogging and monetization and developing online platforms. So feel free to join the show. Look at good girl. And it's funny you say that, Melanie, about people with their comfort zones, but because we got a couple bloggers out here getting a little shy, they need to jump into the chairs. We gotta, it's Melanie and I can't have all the fun. So let's get into it. Okay, Donna's coming.
Did you leave? Did Shauna leave Adventures of 8?
Yeah. No,
she's been blogging longer than I have, and she's
still
got
here.
An amazing.
She's still here. Hey, Donna. Donna. Say hello.
I'm Sicky girl.
Yeah. So, Melanie. Yes,
I love
please.
what you're saying, and I don't have a blog. I actually have a website, and I've been. Excuse me. Go bark over there. I've been sitting on this website for over 10 years. I just signed up for another 5 years of the domain name. And sometimes, what you said earlier about not feeling like a writer really resonated with me, because here it is over 10 years and I still don't feel like a writer. My shame.
It's okay. That's what we're here. It's becoming a support group here for my writers today. So. Interesting.
But thank you. But
Donna,
thank you
you've
for
done a lot
that.
with online publishing. You've done so much,
I know, but I still don't. I don't feel like the only job that I feel like I'm good at is mom. That's it. I'm a good mom.
Well, then you need to share the secrets of motherhood, my friend. You just answer your own question. Don't be selfish.
So Donna,
with the tips.
Do you create any kind of content right now?
No, I just put up events. I put up what I feel is interesting. I promote unknown artists, Latino artists. I promote scholarship opportunities. I promote feel good stories. I'm like you. I'm very safe. I don't push the envelope. I have many opinions about many things, but I mostly keep them to myself.
Okay,
right,
so let me.
Well, so I don't know that, Donna. So she gives me all kind of opinions.
Don't know that, Donna.
Let me share something.
That Donna's been hiding from me.
Let me share something
Thank you for
with
the
you.
Periscope community for joining this
In a
conversation.
public sense, I don't put my opinions out there because, like you know, not everybody shares my opinions, you know?
Right. So let me share something with you
Mhm.
that really, really, really resonated with me. This past fall, I was lucky enough to get to interview Sandra Cisneros, the Chicana author.
Mhm.
And she said to me, you know, I asked her about advice for writers, you know, or writers starting, not just writers in general. And I asked her if there was anything in the Latino sphere that she wished someone would write about or that she wasn't seeing. And she looked at me and said, "Are you kidding me? Everything." She was everything. She said, "You
Yeah.
are there will never
It's an
be." So
ocean.
Donna,
It's
this is for
missing.
you.
Yeah.
There will never be another person that is living the life that you're living right now at this time with the experiences and the emotions that only you have. That person will never exist. And by not sharing those stories, you're being a little bit selfish. You're keeping it away from the rest of us because if you don't do it, we don't get it. We don't ever get to hear it.
See, this is what's called third party validation,
Thank
because
you.
I'm like Donna's little brother, you know, like I can say this 1700 times what you just said, and she hasn't listened. So hopefully Melanie will, well, she's listened sometimes, but Melanie will, it'll resonate. Donna needs to be a regular host of the show. That's what I'm, that's one of the things I've always wanted to do, because you're funny as heck. You're funny as all heck. I know your daughter's watching, and you're already a big part of the show. Michael says Donna rules, no doubt about it. Let's get into, because I know we have some people that wanted to specifically get some tips about from Melanie's perspective on the blogging scene. Melanie, I really wanted to have you on here because, you know, quite honestly, there's a train of thought in the online community that blogging sort of dead, and I really wanted to kind of get your perspective on kind of where this is at from a business perspective. So I'm going to touch on a few elements of sort of avenues that I know you have monetized in the past, and strategies you may or may not still be using. And I just wanted to kind of help you kind of give us a brief explanation of what these avenues are and strategies are, and then kind of where they're at in 2016. So the first time I heard about brand ambassadorship for bloggers was from you in our conversation. I found it really interesting, and I learned a little bit more about it. So explain for the audience what, jump in, Mike, feel free. What being a brand ambassador is as a blogger, and kind of where do you see that at as an option for bloggers in 2016 nowadays?
So first of all, blogging is not dead. Blogging is still one of the only ways that you can own your own platform. So while we love these other platforms that we can use and have wonderful pieces to it, it's not fully ours. If Blab or Periscope or YouTube decides to go away, it goes away, right? So where, as opposed to having your own site, you know, you back up your website, you have all of that content, it's yours, you own it. So I just want to say that. Second, as far as brand ambassadors, yes. So I'm currently not a brand ambassador for any particular brand right now, but it is still a very viable avenue of income for bloggers. What I would suggest is that you look for the brands that match your values and your message. And so it's just a matter of bloggers learning, because this is something that you learn, because once it becomes your business, there's a lot of parts of the business that you need to learn, and one of them is learning what your message is, what your own brand is, and how that will be a good partnership for the other brand that you want to be the ambassador for. So, you know, some examples are, you know, like some of the most famous, you know, or most known ones are, you know, moms and child products, baby products, diapers, you know, all kinds of whatever you name. It makes sense for a mother to be a brand ambassador for those types of products, right? Or a food blogger to be an ambassador for whatever, any kind of ingredients, sugar, milk, whatever it is. So when they match up, it's really great. Now, I think where it's going in 2016 is you have to show why you're unique, because there's jingles of food bloggers and mom bloggers and whatever else there is bloggers. Like, no one is that unique anymore. There's not just one. There's not just one Latina blogger talking about a cultural identity. You know what I mean? Like there's not just one Latina blogger talking about education. Like there's a bunch of us now. There's a bunch of any kind of that blogger. So it's up to the blogger to provide what makes, oh, we lost Ray. Okay. Hi, Michael. I can't hear you. Can you hear me? No? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. I can see your lips moving, but I can't hear you. Okay, let me finish my thought on that. But yeah, Michael, I can't hear you. So if you want to keep playing with it, and then we can
Hello?
Oh, there you
Can
go.
you see me? There you go. Yeah, it happened. Yeah, I was tightening up. I figured it was gonna.
Can you hear me?
It was gonna freeze at some point. So
awesome. So
Michael, can we hear you, brother?
Oh, there he is. Can we hear you, Michael?
We can hear Michael now. Yeah. Yes. So I'm sorry, Melanie. Finish your thought, and then we'll get to Michael.
Yeah. So the biggest. So right on, Shauna. Okay, I'm gonna get to that. What Shauna said. So the thing about where we are in 2016 as far as brand ambassadors is now it's upon the blogger to explain, for one, like Shauna said, explain what you are, because they might not always understand exactly that relationship. So sometimes we have to be the teacher on that. And but the other thing is you really have to sell yourself as to why you are the mom blogger that they need to partner with. Whatever it is that makes you special, whatever, whatever your backstory is, essentially whatever it is that gets your readers to come to you. That's what you need to explain to the brand so that the brand can decide if that's what is a good partnership. And so it's still a process. It's still a process. But I think that where we went for a little while was that it was a lot. Like it was a lot. Brands were hiring bloggers, and now it seems to be a little bit more as to, well, why do I need to have a brand ambassador, and why should it be you? And so now it's on us as the influencers, the creators, to show what is so special, because things are changing too. Things are changing. It's not just a blog anymore. I see more and more Instagrammers, people who don't even have a blog, who only have a large Instagram following, become brand ambassadors because that's where their audience is. So again, you have to figure out what it is about you that makes it.
Yeah, no. So Michael, I'm curious. Let's ask this question from the audience. Are there any platforms, Melanie or Michael, you may be aware of that platforms to go to where you can that help facilitate becoming a brand ambassador? Or what are the avenues to be able to access potential brands that you're aware of that you can share?
I can't hear Michael.
Yeah, I can't hear him either. What do you think, Melanie? You have any thoughts on that?
Hello? I don't know of any platforms where. Oh, is that you?
Oh, yeah, we hear you now.
Okay, I had the mute button on. I'm sorry. I'll let Melanie finish up, and then I'll dive in.
So I don't know of any platforms where you can go to sign up to be a brand ambassador. If anyone does, yeah, please share that.
Yes.
But I do know of blogger networks that will partner you with sponsored posts. This is not quite the same thing as a brand ambassador. A brand ambassador is more like you get a contract with them, for and so you do blog posts, and usually you do other things with them as well. Whereas most of the blogger networks,
Like what kind of other what kind of other things?
you do other like Twitter chats, but you also go to
Live
events
events.
and represent them. Like you can
Oh,
go to a
that's cool.
conference and be the representative there, or go to their
Nice.
corporate, events that they do and be a representative there. So that's one thing, the ambassador. But then the blogger networks tend to partner bloggers with brands who want to do a sponsored post campaign. And sometimes that might be multiple blog posts, but usually it's just one blog post, and you disclose at the top that you received money for the blog post. And but Michael, if you know of places to go sign up to be brand ambassadors, tell us.
Yeah, no, let's interesting. Mike seems real amped into this conversation. So, Mike, what's your initial thoughts about the brand ambassador piece, or any other initial strategies for bloggers to monetize you wanted to share?
I'm always amped about this because Melanie just said some of my favorite words. She's talking about blogging networks and blogging communities, and I have the absolute pleasure of running one of those for a PR firm that I own. And she absolutely hits the nail on the head in so many ways. The one that jumps out at me the most is that the overwhelming majority of the deals we do are for a blog post with a given blogger. I can also touch on some other platforms that we're getting a lot more business on. But ultimately in 2016, because Melanie hit it on the head, the bloggers know their audience. Actually, I have a couple of notes I left. Bloggers absolutely know why their audience is a good fit and specifically what their audience responds best to. Melanie knows that inside out better than myself or any staff member on my team can take a look at her blog and figure that out. She knows her voice. She knows her audience. She knows what they like. She knows what they don't like. It's really up to her to work with us and to communicate that to us and to communicate why her audience is perfect for the brand, even specifically most of the time when her site aesthetically or content-wise, specifically on the homepage, doesn't seem like that would be a good fit. So, for example, we just did a deal recently where a blogger, all of her content on the homepage, because it's just something she was recently talking about, was very recipe-focused, yet we were able to sell the brand on that she was an amazing fit for a tech product. So it really, we need feedback from the specific blogger on why they are a good fit for that. Now, what we're focused on doing is really trying to expand out of just the one-and-done campaigns. Those do really well for our clients. We do a fantastic job managing them, not patting myself on the back, much, much more patting my staff on the back of the day-to-day interactions between the clients and the bloggers and staying on top of that stuff. They do an absolutely amazing job. But what we're saying to our clients is Melanie has built up this amazing audience. Melanie speaks, this audience. Melanie says jump, this audience says how high. Instead of making one touch point with them, some of them are going to be poised to jump, and other of them might not have their jumping shoes on. So ultimately, let's build multiple touch points with Melanie's audience over the course of a year. Let's keep in touch with them. Let's keep your brand in front of them. So the first time she introduces them, now they're aware of you. Time 2, 3, and 4, they trust you, they accept Melanie's endorsement, and they'll act on that much better than with that first touch point. So that is a very, very large goal of my company for 2016.
Wow, this is really interesting. So can you, yes, Melanie.
Someone had asked if there was networks or platforms. Kim and Renee had asked if there was platforms. And so I just wanted to add that while there may not be an actual platform, what Michael just shared, though, is what you want to share. You want to research the brand, find the context that you need to find, and then that's what you need to share with them. If you know, and also I would go through someone like Michael and stay in their network so that as these opportunities come up, you're already there. And Shauna also said, all of my brand ambassadorships came from working with the brand first. And a lot of that is true for me too. I met them through a blogger network, more importantly, I met them at conferences like Hispanicize, and then built that relationship with them over and over. And so, no, brand ambassadors are not free press. There is a lot to say about that. I know that there's a big conversation around that in the blogging world. And so I would just say that don't work for free. And I say that from experience.
That's
but
right.
I mean, I know there's times that, yes, you're going to do things. You're going to do some work in good faith that it will grow the relationship. And sometimes that will really pay off, and sometimes it won't. You just have to know when to walk away.
Mm-hmm. So, Michael, can you share a little bit more about kind of and Melanie as well in terms of blogger networks and kind of a little bit more of how that works and how a blogger can determine, what if that scenario fit in that network fits for them. And I'm going to step away for like 3 seconds, but Phil, I'll be hearing you, so feel free to start that answer, Michael, and then give
one thing I want to dive into is just a point that Adventures of 8 brought up, who said it's all about building a relationship with a brand. This is something Melanie dove into quite a bit. I want to say, as person on the network side, that is, my network's kind of special in that we are less of a platform and much more of a relationship company. What we specifically offer brands is less of just the fact that we have contacts with people and much more that we have day-to-day relationships with them. For example, say after this I start following Melanie. Melanie wants to take part in our network. Now that I'm following Melanie on her socials, I have a much better idea of what Melanie puts out, what works for her, and all things like that. And wait, this is how I know Angel. Angel's one of my bloggers who, you see, I'm friends with him. He's doing something. I'm going to jump in. I'm going to check it out. I want to know what Angel's up to. So as advertisers come to me, I know day in and day out who the people are to put them in touch with and who the people are to pair their brand with based on my personal relationships and based on relationships of that of my staff. So to build on what Adventures of 8 was saying, as far as a network goes, don't be afraid. I don't know how any other network operates because I put my all into running my own. Don't be afraid to become very friendly with your network rep. Yeah, exactly. Adventures of 8 nails it. Become very, very good friends with your network reps. We are absolutely here to help you. We are absolutely here to understand who you are, what you like, what your audience likes. That lets us do our job for the advertisers a million times better. And the squeaky wheel gets the grease. The more in our face you are with what you're doing, and the more that we see you're doing absolutely awesome things, the more likely we are going to fight tooth and nail to get you on campaigns. Even if the advertiser is giving us pushback, we will fight for you. So I definitely wanted to jump in and say that it's so relationship based, and the more time you can put into those relationships, even if it is through a network, the more business you are going to get. I know that. I do this every single day, and I can guarantee that.
Yeah, no, and I wanted to. So for the benefit of the podcast audience, the oh, I'm so sorry. Adventure of 8. What is her first name? Melanie. Shauna. I'm sorry, Shauna. I just saw the Twitter handle. Have you here. So Shauna commented basically that some of the blogger networks, or generally speaking, the blogger networks that she's familiar with, are more concerned about numbers than some of the direct relationships with brands that she's had ambassadorships. And she concurred with Michael that the PR reps, she's got a handful of them that she loves. Cap, cap, cap! Exclamation point. So the relationships that Michael we're talking about with these PR reps is very important. I wanted to ask both of you. I'm sure there's bloggers that are watching this, listening to this. Is that what kind of audience do you have to have? What's sort of like a minimum threshold? If you're a blogger, you have a website, you have a certain social media audience. What kind of network, what kind of reach do you have to have to even go to a PR rep or approach a blogger network about being about a collaboration?
You just have to have one that will interact back with you on whatever your platform is. So I am a firm believer that to your 250 followers who interact with you every day are way more valuable than the 10,000 Twitter followers that, mute your tweets or don't even give you a little like. So because those are the ones that the new term now is influencer, right? And so it doesn't matter.
Yes.
I don't believe that it totally matters on the number of people that you influence, just that you influence them. And if you paint that picture to a brand or to a PR person for their client, that's the goal. Like that's really it, and sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's a little bit hard. I mean, we're looking at we're looking at layers here too. So I want to just hit on that. Excuse me, for anybody who might not be familiar, but you have the client, right, or the brand, and then either that brand has hired a blogger network, to represent them, be their middleman between them and the bloggers, or they're working with an agency, a PR agency. So it's usually like a small group of people that serve that who is reaching out, or they're working. There she is.
Hey, Shauna.
Hello. I don't know.
Hey, Shauna.
And if if they're not going through the blogger network or the PR, then they have their own in-house PR staff. And so a blogger can get to a brand through one of those levels. We lost Ray. He'll come back. So I just want to say that for the purposes of the recording, or anybody who might be listening that might not quite understand that there's layers to that. And I think that I would say, for me personally, and you can chime in too, Shauna, that almost every interaction has been different. There's been, where I work directly with the brand, the staff, that person that is on that corporate team. I've worked with blogger networks, and I've also worked through PR agencies. So not any of them, I think, have been exactly the same. But it was valuable to learn that that's how it is. And I'm not sure that everybody understands that it won't be the same every time. I forgot what his original question was. I went off on that.
I think that was really good. And just for the purpose of that, this is being recorded for audio. I just want to briefly discuss what I just said to Shauna in the chat. Shauna brought up an amazing point about having high follower numbers as opposed to, or in her case, in conjunction with having great relationships with your actual followers and having that great engagement, which Melanie was just bringing up. If you have 250 followers, but they all know your name and you all know them and you know their story and they know yours, that's infinitely more valuable than 10,000 followers you bought on Fiverr. And Shauna was re-emphasizing that point about her situation. And I bring a little bit of a different perspective to it. I feel like the bad guy. I definitely feel like the bad guy sometimes, because we are just like you, Melanie, even though we are specifically not the blogger, but as the network, I have worked with Fortune 500s brand direct. I have worked with Fortune 500s through their PR firm. I've worked with smaller companies through their PR firm. Everyone has strangely different goals, and that makes it a very unique experience for us, just as much as it is for you. And it's our goal to deliver on what we are tasked with. And it is very interesting when we're tasked with something along the lines of get us tech bloggers of influence. And I just got off a call with a PR firm for a tech company, a smaller startup style tech company, the other day, and I just want to be careful of what I say. But
you have bloggers here that are listening too, right?
I know, and this
That's right.
This is really good info for you. I'm more concerned about advertisers that are listening. The most interesting thing that I learned is that what they are striving to deliver to their client is directly tied to the blogger's traffic per month. which is a very strange metric to me. And I made the point, and this goes back.
So frustrating to us.
This, and Shauna, this goes to the point that I was trying to make in the chat, which I'm going to reiterate for the purpose of the audio.
Which I can understand.
That I said, you want a publisher with 400,000 monthly page views who's putting out so much content that your content will likely get lost in the shuffle. I cannot sugarcoat that. There is nothing I can do. I have a blogger lined up who, and this goes back to what I was saying before about when you have a relationship with us, we will fight for you. We will get to know you, get to know your audience, and we will fight for you. I have a blogger, 150,000 page views. Every single project we have worked with them on, they have over-delivered excessively. We measure the amount of traffic that your specific blog post gets for our advertiser with a tracking pixel. I know for a fact that that smaller blogger will deliver more reads and a higher read time on that blog post than the larger blogger will by far. By far. And this goes to what I was saying to Shauna. We will get on the phone and fight for you. The problem is when they come back and say, well, we set client expectations of this many page views per month for the site, and I have to work within that. My hands are absolutely tied. So I do want to convey that. I promise sometimes if we're coming with goofy requirements, it's passed down to us, and I do promise, at least as far as the company I run, that we do understand and we will absolutely get on the phone and fight for bloggers that we believe are.
So definitely sort of a macro lesson. I definitely want to get Shauna in this conversation. And I really appreciate you, Shauna, jumping on. I know I was pestering you nicely, but I was pestering you, so I appreciate you jumping in. And I really appreciate you joining the show. So that sort of on a macro level, ultimately, numbers are important, but it really is about the quality of the engagement with your audience. And part of that is knowing your audience and really having identified your niche, right? So there's a lot of factors, and obviously quality content and consistency and everything else. Shauna, my family of 8, again, thank you so much for joining the Race Talk Show. It's such an honor to have you here. And please just jump in, take over for a minute, because you had so much great information on the chat, and we just wanted to make sure your voice was heard in this conversation.
No, I totally agree with everything that he said. Like I said, my biggest thing is brand ambassadors are not the same as somebody that just posts about something. Brand ambassador will normally have like a non-compete and will get paid and will work for that company. So if so it's slightly different. And my biggest deal is working with PR firms or PR people that don't quite understand the difference. Like I get emails daily. We want you as a brand ambassador. Can you go ahead and post this for us? Yes. And, and it's like, well, yeah, sure. Here are my rates.
Right, out of the kindness of your heart.
Right. And this is what I can do for you. And then they come back and say, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have a budget for that. Yep. Like that word brand ambassador is so overused right now.
I think as frustrating in general.
Right. And it's frustrating because it should mean one thing, but it's right now being just thrown around. And that's the biggest frustration.
Donna, what do you see as sort of if a blogger, and again, I started this segment sort of with a headline I've seen in the social media world, which I know you've seen and probably, was horrified by, and have some opinions about this concept of, blogging is dead, or it's not what it used to be, or it's not the sort of mechanism that it was even maybe 2 or 3 years ago with everything else going on. So I wanted to get your thoughts about sort of where do you see sort of bloggers, what's another avenue that you see that bloggers should be thinking about as it relates to strengthening their monetization stream? So there's other options where I wanted to share, but I wanted to get your just initial thoughts on that. Like, as you see the landscape evolving, what's your advice to people to sort of adjust with the times as a blogger and a writer?
I think that offering more than just a blog post is the biggest thing. Like I have companies that say, I don't have the budget right now for you to write this blog post. Well, I can hit back and be like, well, guess what? I can help you with some Instagram shares. I can help you with some Twitter shares instead of a full-on blog post. So how about we go the social media route and we can work those numbers. And the whole thing about the blogging world being dead, I don't think that it's dead. I think that it's huge. It's so big. There are so many bloggers. It's amazing right now. And the problem is weeding through those bloggers that aren't up to par with some other bloggers that don't put the time that they could be and all of that kind of stuff. And so it's hard to kind of weed through those and get noticed when you have a multitude of bloggers adding on daily that don't know what they're doing yet. So I just think it's just moving with the times. I mean, obviously we all know that Facebook is the hardest thing to go through. I mean, it's the hardest thing to keep your readers engaged because it's so their numbers keep on changing on what they see, and it's frustrating. So it's like, as a blogger, you just have to learn how to go with the chimes. Like Melanie was saying earlier about going to video. I don't personally do a whole lot of videos, but at least I can still do that.
That's how I look at it. Yeah.
And I still have a good following on YouTube, and I still have that's I think that's where the future is offering more social media and actually making that more of a package.
Definitely.
Just
Melanie, when you do the social media that Donna's referring to as sort of an added value for your clients and brands that you work with, what is the nature of the social media? So is it bite-sized chunks, maybe a quote from a blog post that you did? Is it just sort of, does it tend to be imagery or that sort of reflects, kind of the theme of maybe your latest blog post or kind of what you're writing about? Like what is a blogger putting on Instagram that's complementing the content that they're producing, kind of, as an example?
Well, that's when understanding which audience is on which platform. So like, I know that my audience on Twitter is different than my audience on Facebook. So I can't just put the same blurb and share it on both. I mean, I could, but it's not as efficient or effective. I'm sorry, it's not as effective. So I want to talk to the audience that's there. So I'll create something that I think will resonate with that audience. Instagram, I find, is always a little bit more challenging, especially like if it's a product, because then it's like it's a picture of the product and it's so obvious that you're just getting paid to share that. So you have to force yourself to get creative around that so that your audience doesn't feel like, what is she doing? But you're still
I could see Pinterest having a similar dynamic, right? I could see Pinterest having a similar dynamic in that it's so visually focused. That's why I was curious, Donna, because I think you may have mentioned Instagram. But do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm the opposite. Myself am more of a visual person, and I will spend hours on Instagram and less time on Twitter because I like the visual. And so that, to me, like, that's something that I always try to keep in mind, is to make things visual. So even on Twitter, I try to post pictures so that if that catches their eye. So I think that also just depends on the person too.
Melanie, another piece that I know I wanted to get your thoughts on for the audience here. And again, really appreciate everyone being part of Ray's talk show today, talking about, hey, blogging ain't going anywhere, and there's lots of avenues and creative ways you can grow your platform. But you have to probably stretch out of your comfort zone and try some different things. But there's definitely opportunities there. And as Donna said, it's part of it is there's so much out there, a lot going on. And I'll get to you in a second, Michael, but I did want to put another thought on the table here, is that where do you see, Melanie, that freelancing, writing for other platforms, how much of that is part of what you're doing, and how do you advise bloggers sort of balancing going after branding or partnership opportunities for their platform as opposed to writing or providing content for other platforms as from a monetization perspective? I would love to get everybody's thoughts on that, but let's start with Melanie.
Everybody will have their own path, obviously, right? And that's what's nice about this career, is that we can create it however we want. So there was a point in my blogging where the majority of my money was coming from sponsored posts. I still don't have advertising on my blog, like the clicking, advertising. So the majority of my income was coming from sponsored posts. And I'm shifting from that so that I can go back to writing about the stories that I want to write about, because I saw the sponsored posts was suffocating the messages about education and things like that I wanted to write about. So I'm shifting a little bit, and so I'm moving into freelancing. I mean, I've always done freelancing, but I'm making up the difference from sponsored posting into freelancing. And you just have to go with what you're good at. Once you freelance, you're not necessarily under your brand anymore. Because you can write it as, unless you choose to be, you can do that too. But like, I don't work as Gab means what for someone else. I work as Melanie Mendez-Gonzales, the writer or the content creator or the social media scheduler or whatever project that I'm doing for that particular client. And so if it's writing that you freelance, then feel free to go write whatever is going to make you money. But it doesn't have to relate to your blog. Does that make sense? And so,
Sure.
freelancing is a whole other thing. I mean, it can, and when it matches, it's beautiful. But usually that will entail putting something on your blog. If I'm working as Gab means what for someone else, 99% of the time, that something else is going to show up on gabmeanswhat.com. Whereas if I'm just freelancing as Melanie, then it doesn't have to show up on gabmeanswhat.com. It's a byline somewhere else.
Yeah, I'd love to get Donna's take on this conversation, because and Marcy Quintana's joined us. Thank you so much. She's fun entrepreneur in the building, one of the podcasters in the game, and hopefully she can join the show in a minute. But Donna, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, because that's another buzz topic I've heard in sort of with online gurus, this concept of, you need to be focusing on guest blogging, because most likely you're not that big yet. You need to be on bigger platforms to turn people onto your blog. And so what's your thoughts, Donna, about this balancing act with sort of freelancing or producing content for other platforms and while you're building up your own brand?
I really can't talk on that because I don't do it. In all honesty, I work 24/7 on my own brand, on my own blog. I post every day, and it's just, it's consuming. But I don't post like Melanie. It's not a personal blog to me. It is a brand. I do product reviews. I review products. That's what I do. That's what they come to read about. And so whether it be the latest and greatest of Hasbro toys or the latest and greatest of shoes or whatever it may be, that's what I'm working on. And if I'm not on my blog, I am busy trying out products and taking photos and fixing them. I truly would love to say, yeah, I freelance, but I really don't, and I just don't have time to.
Interesting. Michael, what's your general thought?
I'm sorry, Ray, real quick. I just want to add, that's what's great. It's that Shauna and I are both bloggers, but we have different careers. And that's what I like about this
Interesting.
space.
That's a great point.
Yeah, we can create it however we want. I love that Shauna says, I review products. That's what I do. And when I'm not writing, I'm reviewing products, or you're trying out products. And that's her space. That's what she's created. And for me, Gab Means What has just been a platform for the other things that I want to do. And that's why I think I've had this, whole journey, like I said earlier, about going down one way and then realizing, that's not the way that I want to go. And then I can course correct and go back the other way. Yeah. So I just wanted to add that hopefully that's some inspiration for someone else, that it doesn't always look the same.
And at the same time, even though I am like a reviewer, all of my stuff is still personal. Like, I don't just type, and you won't find anything copied or pasted from the website or just brand information. Like, my stuff is truly from the moment that I open this package. My kids squealed, my son laughed, he was crying.
She's great. Yeah, storyteller.
Right. So it's still my own thing. And that's the only way that I can stand above other reviewers that might not have the same experience.
Michael, what's your the talents that you work for? How do you advise them that, hey, they're looking to build their brand, they're looking to monetize, they're looking to hustle? How do you advise them about sort of this balancing act between building your brand and looking for these creative opportunities for income and potential exposure for your brand?
I think all of this, and Melanie said it great, and Shauna definitely touched on it. This is just being an entrepreneur in general. All of us are doing something relating to blogging, but being an entrepreneur in general is an absolutely 24/7 lifestyle. There are a million different things you can do. You and I were talking the last time we spoke about failure, and what if you focus too much time on the wrong thing? Does that wind up being a failure? Does that really set you back? And I said, you can make calculated, educated guesses, but ultimately you will never be able to look into the future and see what is going to pay off the biggest. And I think from what I'm hearing from Melanie and Shauna is they are making, in their respective entrepreneurial careers, they are making the most educated, calculated guesses of what they need to be doing to build their respective brand. And not to divert too much, but Shauna, I have the funniest story because I could totally empathize with what you said about you open a product for review, and from the second you open it, like it's game on. I was reading a draft post of a blogger that we were working with, and they sent me a draft, and we had sent them a very, very expensive, I think it was $500-something guitar for one of our clients. And I start reading her draft post, and it starts with, so I could never figure out where this guitar was and when it was coming, etc. Mm-hmm. And I opened up the garage door, and I got in my SUV with my kids, and we backed out of the driveway, and we didn't realize that FedEx left the guitar right outside my garage door, and they ran the guitar over.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, I have to tell you, this wound up being one of the best, as much as I almost had a heart attack at 25. This wound up being one of the best posts we ever produced because she went on to say, even though she ran over this very expensive guitar with her massive SUV, it was so well packaged that there was not a scratch on it when she opened it.
Wow.
But I had to bring that up when you said from the moment you open it, like that experience is on. And that's exactly how I felt. And that's exactly what I am so passionate about working with bloggers is this woman, before she even opened it, she ran over the thing with her car. And that was the start of her experience.
So funny.
Still shared that. But a little bit more back on topic. I think ultimately, Ray, you and I were discussing about it's calculated risks. These two women are understanding how are they calculating what's the best investment of their time. That's time they will never get back, and they have to believe in whatever that they're doing. For me personally, I spend 9 hours a day at the office. I spend several hours a day outside the office doing client work, doing sales work, responding to RFPs, winning RFPs, doing this, doing that, doing the other, pitching publications to write for, writing for our own blog, etc. And that's why it was funny when I brought up before, hearing Melanie talk and go, holy crap, she's right. You know, getting your voice out there is not something to be shy about. And I do really well on the advertising side. What I brought up with you last time, Ray, is I am amazing and I am passionate and I'm not to toot my own horn, but I am awesome at running my business. But I need to focus a little bit more on my personal life. And hearing Melanie did inspire me to build out my own little personal thing on the side. So I will be starting that on my own. That's a calculated chance I'm going to take that I'll be taking a little bit of time away from my day-to-day business responsibilities in my pseudo off hours, if that answers your question adequately.
It's amazing how many barriers and comfort zones have been stretched today, and I really appreciate that's what Ray's talk show and our community is all about. Just kind of, hey, we're just trying to support each other. We're not just we not only attract. You mentioned earlier, Michael. Wow, another great question, another great person. I'm like, you know, to paraphrase TLC, Ray's talk show got no scrubs. I mean, there's a lot of talented people part of our network, but the bottom line is we need to support each other so we could just push ourselves a little bit more and kind of just be exactly, get out of the get out of all these mental cages and just do our thing, do our damn thing. Melanie, wanted to ask you in terms of kind of diversifying a blogger's platforms as well as a blogger's sort of income streams. I know one of the things that you've gotten into public speaking and training and sort of offline kind of activities, right? So any thoughts about that for people that are bloggers or content creators that haven't done public speaking at events or haven't spoken at conferences, but that are interested in that being an avenue? What are your thoughts on that piece that you wanted to share with our Raise Talk Show community? And of course, Michael and Donnie, Shauna, you'll be welcome to chime in as well.
Yeah. So everyone knows something that other people don't know, and I had a really hard time with that. Like I want to be a speaker, I want to speaker, but I don't want to speak about. And it was lots of conversations with people who take care of me that would say, yeah, this is really easy because this, that. And not everybody knows that. And they say, no, not everyone knows that. And so it took a lot, I'm talking like years, a lot of time for people. I wanted to be a speaker before I was a blogger. And I'm just now starting to do that on a regular basis. So just don't wait as long as I did. That's what I would tell people. Like, don't wait as long as I did. If this is something that you want to do, again, it's a skill that can be learned, and you can, work on your craft. You can work on your message to get that out. But we live in a time where whatever you want to do, all you have to do is open Google and go find out how to do it and then start working.
That's right.
That's it. I mean, that's really, really it. And that's kind of what I started doing with speaking. Well, and the fact that I had been to some of these conferences that I speak at now, I had gone and I was, I want to do that. And so luckily, I knew some of the people that I could, so that my name was familiar, at least when I would pitch to speak at some things. And so, yeah, so that's what I would say. If you want to speak or do other things, just start doing it. Do not wait. I wish I had started much, much earlier than I did.
Yeah. Melanie, has it become a fair part of your monetization strategy, the paid public speaking stuff or training or workshop presentations, whatever that offline piece? Is it significant yet?
Yeah,
how would you characterize it?
In all honesty, no.
Growth area?
Not yet. Not yet. It's part of the plan. It's part of building that empire. Absolutely.
Okay.
So I'll tell y'all something really real right here is that's part of like
Race Talk Show's all about being real, girl. That's it. Let's do it.
The big scary vision.
Struggle's real.
Y'all have done those exercises where it's like the big thing, the big thing that you really don't think that you can get, but that's what it is that you want. That's mine. That's mine is, filling an auditorium of sort. I mean, filling a stadium, maybe whatever, filling a lot of seats.
You're going to do it. You're going to do it. You're visualizing it. It's happening.
That's
so, Shauna, has that been part of your journey in terms of some of the offline stuff, speaking, training, even any of that? Is that part of your strategy or part of what you've developed?
No, really. I am more on the back end of just working with brands. Okay. And that's really, I mean, like I said, I'm more of a review blogger. I'm not, I'm not on the same path as Melanie. I mean, she's like a public figure. She's somebody that we all know and love. And, obviously I've known her for, God, I don't even know how long, Melanie.
Like 8 years. Robert?
Yeah.
Shauna, where are you based? Are you based in Texas as well?
Yes, in San Antonio.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. Yeah. 210 in the building. I love it.
We know each other before either one of us started blogging.
That is true.
Oh, that's nice. Is my favorite watering hole in San Antonio still there? The Cadillac Bar? Is it still there? Cadillac Bar?
Yeah, it's still there. No, it's not.
Okay.
Wait.
It closed?
Really? Cadillac, one of them closed. I'll find out for you, Ray.
Oh, it's been a few years. Well, I'm sure I can find somewhere else. It's a great town. Oh, that's cool. Yeah. What do you talk to us? Shauna, tell me a little bit. I mean, I can certainly guess from the title of your social media platform. Tell us a little bit more about your blog and your platform. What kind of stuff are you share more about what you're doing?
I'm a multi-generational home of 8, which means that we have my 3 kids, my husband, myself, my brother, and my in-laws all in one house.
Nice.
Yes. So it's always busy. But what that also means is that I have 8 people here that help me do my job, literally. You know, I mean, it's definitely grown from 8 years ago or 7. Let me see. I started about 7 years ago when I told my husband, I was like, you know, I think I'm going to do product reviews. And he was like, you're going to do what? And I said, I'm going to contact companies and ask them to send me products to review. And he rolled his eyes at me and was like, okay, sure. And now every place that we go, my kids will pick up a product and hold it up and go like that.
That's
or we'll
adorable.
point to a product in a store so that I can take a picture for brand placement. You know, all of that kind of stuff. Or they get something and they want to do a video. Look, you know, video me. I'm trying this out. I'm opening this box, mom, ready. I'm doing an unboxing.
Yeah.
You know? And
your product reviews, the live streaming is a big part of that now. You know, Periscope and stuff.
It has. It's just become our lives. So, you know, my kids have grown up with it. They know that unfortunately it means that I'm online 24/7. But it also means that I can do everything with them, you know, so I can take them to the park, I can go to their school, I can work at their school, I can do all of that. And the greatest thing is when I can help, you know, the school with, you know, if there's something going on, that I can talk to a brand and the brand wants to help the school and I can work with the brand and the school. And then in return, the brand gets awesome PR because I'm live, you know, I'm tweeting about it at the time and I'm Instagramming photos, and it's just all built upon, you know, a dream 7 years ago.
That is fantastic. No, and we'll set up a time, Shauna, to have you on as a primary guest and really kind of delve into this and family blogging and how to incorporate family into your platform. You know, it's a legitimate question. You know, I struggle with it. I'll share with you. First of all, you can imagine my wife when I set up our little TV studio here a couple of nights a week in my living room, how she feels about it. But I've gotten eyes rolled on me once or twice. But my sons, they're hams, and they're so cute, and they're really charismatic little guys. And I struggle with it because part of me is like, I could pimp these kids out. They'll make me. I mean, we can make videos, and they're so adorable. And people that follow me that are friends, Melanie, you probably see one of my sons. Well, my sons one of them does top wrestling. So Friday night on Facebook Living his wrestling matches. People just love it. So, but I struggle with it because I'm like, they are little guys and privacy and all that kind of stuff. So I'd love to have that conversation with you more in depth, Shauna. But Michael, and I definitely want to get people's thoughts on this, but I wanted to start with Michael. So the other thing that I know Melanie is really good at, and I'm curious, Michael, how you advise your content creators, is sort of getting involved in sort of these larger either conferences or networks. I mean, Melanie's speaking at the Texas Conference of Women. She's volunteering for the San Antonio TEDx series. I'm sure Shauna gets involved in similar activities, Latism, Hispanicize. So, but we all have limited time, right? Mm-hmm. So what's sort of the best bang for your buck? I have buddies that are debating whether to go to Hispanicize just because of the cost-benefit analysis, and we all are sort of struggling with sort of balancing resources with these opportunities. So, Michael, when we're working with brand managers, content creators specifically, how do you advise them about what? Because, like Shauna said, you could do everything all the time. Mm-hmm. There's so much, So, how do you advise them about how to network within network in their circles to just build goodwill and build networks that'll grow their platforms?
I think as far as conferences specifically go, I think conferences are absolutely my favorite thing in the world, and that was not always the case. But the reason I can so confidently sit here and say that is August of 2009. I went to my first marketing conference, and holy crap, did my life change that weekend. I would not be sitting here today. I could rattle off everyone in my network on the marketing production side who we use as vendors, every Fortune 500 that I've gained as a client from that, people who I met that weekend. Literally, if I've never attended a conference ever again and just that one, I would still have a massive business off of just the relationships from that one time. That's just me, but that is why I'm here today. I return the next year as a speaker.
That's great.
Keeping it real on Ray's talk show. I was legally not even old enough to attend the conference, and I was speaking. I got very good feedback as a speaker, so I was very, very happy that kind of smoothed things over with.
I thought you were going to share the ghetto trick, which is like just show up to the conference without being registered and just sort of hang out in the lobby. You know, like I've done that one once or twice. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you got to do. Once you're there, after the second day, nobody cares. You walk into workshops. Hey, we've all done.
The first time I went, I was a paid attendee. It was so cheap. I built this insane network for myself. The second time I went, I was a conference speaker. So I was comped by the conference, and everything was very, very well taken care of by them.
That's cool.
What's
your
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh,
do you ever go to Social Media Marketing World? I was just curious. The one that said Michael Stelzner's conference. You ever go there?
I haven't, and I'll dive into that shortly. The years after that, other than those first two times, that the first one I paid, the second one I was a guest. After that, these conferences, I have such an exhaustive network now that when I go to these conferences, it's about me spending time with those people in that network. And then now that they know me inside out and I know them inside out, they will know who to put me in touch with through their extended network. Or, hey, I met this guy on the show floor. You have to meet him. And ideally meet him during the show. Otherwise, we're going to do an email intro. We'll set up a phone call with you. So I'm at the point where spending the time on the floor is probably less productive than it once was. I have such an amazing, amazing network that they help me just bring qualified people to me. So it's more of the quality instead of the quantity. I will say, kind of tying into what you were saying about what conferences do I choose to go to? How do I advise people on what conferences to go to? I am super, super lucky because I live in New York City. The overwhelming majority of conferences come here or some city very close to here on the East Coast in the Northeast. For me personally, if a conference is coming here, for example, AdTech, I think AdTech is not a good conference, especially for what I do and where I am. I don't like it, but it's down the block from my office and it's a free pass. So I show up at AdTech for a little bit every year. That's basically how you brought up a great phrase, kind of a cost-benefit analysis. I think if you are able to take the gamble and it's a calculated gamble and you can keep your travel expenses low. For example, I talked my business partner into going to an internet retailer conference in Chicago a couple of years ago. He was adamant about not wanting to go. I was adamant we could probably get something out of it that turns ROI. The way I sold him on it is we cashed in company credit card points and did the whole trip for free. And I think to date, other than some great relationships and a vendor that we work with, we didn't win any business from it. But to your point, the cost was literally a few days. It was since we didn't spend any cash outside of some meals, it was such a low risk thing that it was a no-brainer.
There you go. Melanie, you're everywhere. How do you do it? And I mean, from Hispanicize to Blogalicious. I remember you telling me, I got to go to Blogalicious. I'm like, how am I going to tell my wife I want to go to Blogalicious? But that's another conversation. But so how do you do it? And how do you make it work? How do you make it work? The networking.
Well, a little bit like Michael, I started out, just going, and then I started submitting to be a speaker, to be on the panel. And there's some conferences that I just can now say, hey, I want to go. And, I tell them what I'm working on or whatnot, and they'll find a place for me to be on there. And I feel very fortunate because I could not have imagined that when I first started, when I first went to my first conference. I would have never thought that I could be in that position. So I'm very grateful that I get to that. But that's been, years of volunteering. There were several conferences that I would just show up to volunteer, which is a great way to get a taste of what a conference is really like, and get to know people. Because, when you're the person they have to go to ask for stuff, you get to know everybody. And so if you can't afford to go, there's always ways to volunteer to get your pass. and then speak if you want to speak. And as far as the cost, and tips for bloggers who want to go to these conferences, and I mean, it gets expensive, the flights, the hotels. I never have my own room. I always have at least 3 roommates. Soy Latina, so sometimes it's like 5 or 6.
Latin style, I'll tell you.
So we make it work.
Shauna's like, that's nothing. 3 people, that's nothing.
We cram them in.
Slacker.
Yeah. So, but we
That's
have,
awesome.
so I always have multiple roommates, and to try to split those costs. And there's some that I put it in my budget. I have been going to Hispanicize for the last 5 years. I have not missed.
Wow.
Yeah. Now that is a whole week in Miami. I live in Texas, and I have to fly to Miami.
And it's a 5-star. It's at a 5-star hotel. I mean, you may not stay there, but it's in a swanky part.
Yeah, and it's in a 5-star hotel, which means the room every night. It's expensive. But I do it because it's one of it has been one of the most valuable conferences for me to get to know brands and just the community. And the fact that this particular conference is about Latinos in entertainment as well as blogging. And that's a lot. I mean, it's a lot of what my content is, so it makes sense to be there.
You get a lot of value out of it.
And I feel the same way about Latism. Latism is like the advocacy. Latinos in tech, Latinos in education. And again, that's what I do. It's what I talk about. So that's why it's also important. So, and then I just make it work. I have a wonderful support system here who, thank God for my husband, my mother-in-law, my mom. They help me with the kids. And, but yeah, Michael, I've gotten to the point where I don't spend as much time in the classrooms or the workshops or whatnot. I'm spending more time finding out who's there. That's another big tip. Mm-hmm. Find out who is going to be at the conference and reach out to them. They're there to meet people too. So you reach out to them or ask, can I sit with you at lunch, or whatever it is. Meet them in the lobby, whatever, the expo floor. And that's the most beneficial thing. The time, the one-on-one time with the people that you want to meet, you can't beat it. I love social media. I love this, but there's nothing like the one-on-one person, one-on-one in-person conversations that you get to have with people at conferences.
And I definitely wanted to remember for folks listening to this either on the podcast or on Ray's Talk Show, and really appreciate everyone joining. And I love the Blab community because people hang in. I mean, the people have been on watching the show and commenting well over an hour. So appreciate everyone hanging with us here on the show and on the podcast. But you got to sell yourself, right? You got to understand the value that you have to the table. So I got to give Arturo Nava, one of our homies from Logra to Dream, and he actually published his book right around Christmas time that I was very blessed to be mentioned in. But that, he basically approached Manny Ruiz in Spanish. I said, look, you've never done anything on podcasting. We've got a group of Latino podcasters that would like to, share their story. And it was funny because, and Manny was great. We sort of pitched ourselves sort of the tail end of the process. But we literally got like the last spot on the last day. And Melanie is right. It was a 5-day conference, multiple parties, multiple banquets, multiple events. And so we had the Friday afternoon slot after lunch and before the big Gente de Zona concert in South Beach. So we didn't know who was going to show up to this workshop, but it was packed.
Oh,
that's
good.
It was great.
I would have been scared for you too.
It was fantastic. And there was probably, besides the panelists, there was probably another half dozen podcasters. And they were like, great. None of them had never met another podcaster. It was kind of,
oh, wow.
And there was just a lot of interest, a lot of bloggers, but specifically that wanted the podcast but didn't know how to do it. And, it was great. It was great. There's a lot of interest is really the
bottom line. Can I add something to what Melanie said?
Absolutely.
It's not like conferences aren't just about brands, which is funny because I'm the one that's always talking about my brand relationships. The blog world is the most helpful world that I've ever known. I have met the most helpful bloggers at these conferences that like it's like we became family from meeting at the conferences. And it was great, the brands I met, and I still work with a lot of them. But the bloggers that I met, that I've now connected with, that I've now become such good friends with, they're the ones that when I have like a brand that's trying to put a Twitter party on or something, I'll text them and be like, hey, I'm about to start this Twitter party. Can you go ahead and shoot out some tweets for me? It's that connection right there of another blogger that has another 50,000 followers and another blogger that has another 30,000 followers that now has my back for when I need that extra push. You know, hey, can you retweet this for me? Can you do this for me? You know, or hey, I have this brand that I'm working with, but they really need somebody in this department, and this is actually perfect for you. Can I give them your information? It's the bloggers that I've met at those conferences have made my life so easy.
That's
awesome.
Awesome.
So conferences are great for the classes and for the people, but it's also great to connect with other bloggers from different avenues and from your own avenue.
Yeah, I think people are really attracted to these networks because I find in general, whether it's podcasters, bloggers, content creators, you know, social media, marketing folks, YouTubers, is that I think fundamentally that our modern society, like in terms of like the mainstream media communication are so negative. It's so negative that we're looking for just like like-minded positivity. And there's so much of it here. Like we all the good people are like underground, like trying to help each other out. And I find just, and I feel bad because occasionally you run into a young woman or someone that's doing lifestyle beauty stuff that runs into a bunch of periscope trolls. But for the most part, I just find it overwhelmingly positive and collaborative. So Shauna, I agree with you 1,000%. I just partially because of the editing process with the podcast and partially because I have to be on a flight to Las Vegas in about 8 hours. I want to start wrapping up the taping of the show. We'll hang a little bit if we want to just keep chatting. But as we wrap up the formal show, again, I just wanted to thank Melanie Mendez-Gonzales from the GetMeansWhat.com platform. And just a great spirit. Always love connecting with her and looking forward to seeing her in person in Miami at Hispanic Sites very soon. And we'll be in touch very soon. We'll be in touch before that for sure to plot how we're taking over the world here slowly but surely.
That's right.
I always have a lot of love for our San Antonio and Tejano, Texas content creators. Much love to you, Shauna and Melanie and all my buddies out there. So Melanie, as we wrap this up, let people know where they can find you, what you're working on, and where they can find you in social media, and any other thoughts you have for our Race Talk Show and Race Podcast audience.
Sure. Well, first, thanks again, Ray. Thank you so much for your support and having me. I really do appreciate you. And I appreciate you sharing your space with me. You can find me any social media platform as Que Means What, QUE means what, and then, of course, the blog, QueMeansWhat.com. And what I will share my latest thing that I'm working on that we just started, my husband and another partner of ours. We actually launched a nonprofit for STEM education,
That's
college
awesome.
prep.
All right, excellent.
So thank you. We're really excited about it. We're working with the students that are interested in STEM education in some of the disadvantaged communities who we believe we can work with them to get them into not just college, but the top tier Ivy League schools. That's actually what we're focusing on. My husband and our other partner are Ivy League graduates. And we just think that that's
really? Yeah,
I know.
Where'd your
Smart
husband go to school?
My husband graduated.
Where'd he go to school?
He went to Cornell.
I went to Columbia. Oh, he's my rival. Well, I talk about that. That's another conversation.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So we might know each other. That's funny.
Small they grew up in the same area of town, and they figure, hey, if we did it, we can help other people who want to go. And so I've been a huge advocate and passionate about STEM education and the skills that it brings, the skill set that it brings for our students. And so this is what we're working on. And, as somebody who has been writing about and sharing education resources, it's a really great fit. So I will be sharing a lot more information about it on the blog. We're just getting started. We'll have our first camp this spring break. And so, but stay tuned for that. And so I'm also open to anybody who wants to help us tell me how to run a nonprofit.
Well, you know, we need to. Well, we'll talk about it offline. But I have some and actually local resources that could be helpful to you. So let's definitely talk.
Awesome. Oh, and real quick, I want to plug. So, I will be at South by Southwest in Austin this year.
South
by Southwest.
Very nice.
Yeah, I'm hosting an official meetup for multicultural content creators and bloggers. Sunday, March the 13th.
Oh, we got to talk.
5 o'clock.
Oh, that's fantastic. Great. That is great, Melanie. Michael, I know you're running a blogger network. I'm sure there's people watching and listening to this very interested in connecting with you, our blogger world. So, so let people know where they can find you on social media.
Definitely the absolute best way to get in touch with me is to send me a tweet at Pomposello, Pomposello on Twitter. That is hands down the best way to get in touch with me. It will get back to you radically faster than I would with an email or anything like that. So tweet me there, and there are so many opportunities for us to do business together. You brought up everything from blogging to freelance, all of that. Odds are, if it exists, we probably have an opportunity for it. So get in touch with us and let's get to know you. And as stuff comes, that's what we're here to do. We're here to source that to brilliant people like the people we spoke to today.
And Melanie, we're going to have to lure Michael down to Hispanic side so he can meet all these great content creators. So
yes,
it's a nice time. Let me tell you, Michael, it's
sure
worth for a while, no doubt. The ROI. I know we should. It would be great to have you there. Shauna, first of all, I want to apologize. One of my assistant producers texted me and said, "Hey, dummy, you're calling her Shauna, you're calling her Donna, not Shauna." So thank you, that person that'll remain nameless. But at this point, but anyhow, but Shauna, you seem to have a great you have a great message, great smile. I don't know why you were scared to come on camera. You have a wonderful smile. And so I'll definitely reach out to you to have you on as a formal guest very soon. But let people know where they can find you, what you're doing, and how we can learn more about your brand and the adventures of these 8 wonderful people that you're leading here in your household.
Thanks. I'm really easy to find at adventuresof8.com or on all my social media as Adventures of 8, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, pretty much the normal places. Yeah, I'm pretty easy to find. Right now, I'm just working on the day-to-day stuff of just reviewing products every day. More and more comes in, more and more goes out, and hopefully people like to read what I write.
That is fantastic. And Melanie, when we stop the recording, can you hang for a few more minutes? There's a few people in the chat. I'd love to, if they could just jump on and chat with you for a second. Would you be able to hang for a few more minutes?
Absolutely.
Melanie?
Yeah, I'll be here.
Okay, great. So I'm just going to end the recording, and then people can, if you don't mind, Shauna and Michael will rotate a few people in. Sure. Again, thank you so much for watching Ray's talk show, the Blab community. Again, we're going to hang, but I'm just going to end the recording here and to support Shauna, Michael, and Melanie in their endeavors. And again, if you're looking for an online community that's that wants to support your personal development, career growth, so you can just get out of this cage and do your damn thing and learn more about branding, platform building, you've come to the right place. We really try to be inspirational here and really let people go after that dream, because let me tell you, I believe it in my heart. You have these dreams for a reason. God ain't teasing you with these dreams, my friends. You have these dreams because you're meant to do something incredible and you don't even realize it. Thank you again so much for checking out Ray's talk show, Ray's podcast, and have a wonderful day.